It genuinely blows my mind how much leeway woke movements get in comparison to everybody else. Like people love to talk about, let's say, January 6th, right? And how there was this storm in Washington on the Capitol. But yet Antifa was literally burning down half the country for years on end. After the BLM riots, I don't know if y'all remember this, there was an extremist group by the name of Antifa, and they were terrorizing their own neighborhoods or the neighborhoods that, were even in allegiance with them. It was the strangest thing. They were burning down structures and they were looting places. They were beating people up. They were causing genuine harm, and yet these individuals still faced no sort of repercussions, right? But the one I want to talk about specifically today is BLM, Black Lives Matter. Now, I remember when BLM became a thing, and it seemingly came out of nowhere. But if I look at it in hindsight, it made sense that there had to be some sort of organized group that was going to take advantage of all the race baiting that was taking place at that point in time. Now, contrary to what most of the media was displaying, as they always do, is, there was this rampant rise in racism and this huge incline in black individuals having their lives taken by white cops, right? That like white officers were hunting for black men in the streets. That was the narrative, when in truth, statistically speaking, there had been a drastic decline when it came to those incidences, and yet in the news it ramped up. Now, of course, the news has always sold us on the basis of fear. It has always sold that narrative, and especially with the backing of, the establishment, it looks to keep people in turmoil. It looks to control its population through keeping us in a fear state, in a low vibrational, emotionalized state. That's how they control the masses. When you break out of that rhythmic cycle, you are then free. That's just some free game on the side. But nevertheless, here we have this movement that springs seemingly out of nowhere, which is the BLM movement. And so many of us accepted it, including myself. I might not have been, the guy to get the t-shirt, etc. I don't even remember if I put the black square. I might have for like a day or so. But nevertheless, I knew that I was black and I was young and I was a man in America. And so this made me their core or target demographic because I was the one they were speaking to. Though it also simultaneously came at a time where I was also starting to think more for myself, especially after 2015, 2016, when I saw this onslaught of Donald J. Trump, a man who was beloved by the media in one kind of stretch or even in 2 or 3 generations long. Then all of a sudden he's running for president, as the first non-politician and non-general to ever run for the position. And here he was being massacred by the same media who loved him only months before. And I was trying to understand. There was so much slander, which I didn't know was slander, but I started to do my own research. So there was a conflict for me as far as this identity politics thing during that time. But nevertheless, there was this full sweep of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And, as 2018, 19, 20 came, it became a full-blown radicalized movement that had captured the hearts and the minds of all ethnicities. There were more white people who were at those rallies or protests than there were, black folk in a majority of the centers. I remember people with flags at their houses. Like you're going through, Los Gatos in the Bay Area, which is a predominantly white, suburban, wealthy area. And you would see people with their BLM flags. And you're like, what is, now granted, it is the Bay Area. So, it's a little wacky out there. But nevertheless, you saw this entire kind of revolutionary sort of atmosphere. And if you were bought into it, you would have believed that this was a genuine movement and this was something for the people until it wasn't. Now, I don't know if, you guys have specifically done any research past, the initial springing up of BLM. But, as the thing unraveled, there were a lot of controversies. There were a lot of questionable attributes of the individuals who were behind it. Some of the quote unquote leadership was being called out for troubling backgrounds, etc. And, some were being questioned as far as what their true motives were. But it wasn't at this scaled level. It wasn't at this at a mainstream level. It was only happening in the nooks and crannies of the internet. This thing was not being questioned in the same way everything is questioned, on the quote unquote opposite side for conservatives, even moderates at this point, because the left has gone so far left that a moderate now looks like they're a conservative or looks like a Republican, in the eyes of any sane person. But nevertheless, I remember these stories coming out, and then all of a sudden there was this haymaker, this huge story that I was sure was going to crack the entire code and the whole game will be up. The ruse was over. And it was the story of how, many of their well-known leaders had taken funds. So these are donations, right? They, I believe, filed as a 501c3, which is a non-for-profit. And these funds were used, misappropriated, as they say, which really they were stolen. Like, let's be real. Let's use the actual words. I'm not a fan of euphemisms, unless it's, for satirical reasons or something like that. But I'm not a fan of euphanizing the words, of butchering the words in order to make it have a different meaning. So they stole these funds from the people who had donated the funds, and they used them for their own personal use. So what were they doing with the money? They were buying $1 million mansions and taking, $100,000 vacations and buying themselves luxury goods, etc. And you would think to yourself, okay, this is going to be the moment in which the whole thing cracks open. But it wasn't. And that never happened. And unfortunately, but also fortunately, because we have the ability to communicate these messages, is the only way that these individuals can be held accountable is by us speaking out. Because as I said, the far left movement is an establishment movement. We got to see that in the past elections. It is for the system, right? It's like when they say, like they're for the streets, they're for the system, they're for the establishment. So the woke ideology is an establishment thing. They're the ones who are pushing the propaganda because they understand it is a divide and conquer mechanism. They can use us and manipulate us, put you in the alphabet community, put you in the black or the BLM community. They like to segment us, have us have a groupthink in order to control the population, in order to mobilize our votes or mobilize our support, in order to make us one monolith that's going to fight against another, create a sense of tribalism in the midst of the people. So I look at you, you look at me, you see black, I see white, and we're ready at war, as opposed to recognizing our humanity. And that's why, like, I say BLM is a scam, not just because it's a literal scam, and it was a literal scam that stole millions of dollars, funneled millions of dollars from, those who are naive enough to put money in these people's pockets, or those who felt so much white guilt that they funneled money into, these people's pockets. But it's also a scam because it sells us on this idea, this long-held belief system that, everything is on the basis of oppressed and oppressor, like this paradigm that, there are those who are white, who are your oppressor, and there are those who are the oppressed, who are those of color, and this is the dynamic. And unfortunately for the one who's buying into this mentality, what you fail to realize is you're keeping yourself in a place of suppression or oppression through that belief system. You're the only one keeping that alive. As unfortunate as they may be, as much as you may have been benefiting from that belief system or believe you're benefiting, because it plays in both ways. That parasitic relationship plays in both ways. The individual who uses the victim mentality can get attention. They can get, acceptance and admiration and things of that nature. And the one who stands to be your quote unquote ally can also attach themselves, to your own quote unquote victimhood. They can feel good about themselves. And so it's a self-perpetuating system until it is obviously broken by the truth. And the truth of the matter is the entire idea is a scam. There were lies from the very top to the very bottom of the infrastructure, from the media that was pushing the messaging that then led to the radicalization of the people. There were lies there. Again, the statistics show that this incident was going down, and yet they perpetuated. Same thing happened in the crack epidemic. When crime was going down, finally, after 80s had kind of that stretch had seen itself into the 90s, there was a drastic decrease in crime, and yet televised, it was an increase. Like, I'm talking about an exponential increase. Why would they do that? Because they want to continue to perpetuate the very same fear. They want to continue to create the very same, again, low frequency, low vibrational atmosphere that will keep people under their control. Corporations even understand depressed people buy more. That's why they want y'all depressed. And, the feminist movement, like the third wave feminism, oh, you can do it all by yourself, boo, 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 all that. They know that you're going to end up in a depressive state. And through that depressive state, you're going to buy more shit that you don't need. Simple as that. It's a very simple equation. what they call them, like consumer behavior psychologists, they understand this to a T, is what motivates people to buy: insecurity, inadequacy. It is the lower state vibrational elements. And then the salt, like you feel good because the thing being sold to you is the solve for your internal pain. So there has to be a feeling of a deficit within you. And that's what these movements like BLM, oh, I have purpose, I have meaning, I have significance, I have this and that. All of it is a scam from top to bottom. And it has to be called out for what it is. Like, I used to be so afraid to get my black card revoked. Well, guess what? It happened already. It's done. I don't have a black card. I've been uninvited to every cookout, so I really don't give a damn anymore. So I'm at a place where, I'm going to speak the truth continuously. And it will be heard by those who need to hear it. Whether or not they accept it, that's going to be due to timing, and that's going to be due to, again, where they are in their life. But, we're doing nobody any favors by just moving on and not actually investigating these things that, at the time caused so much havoc and are still having the very same detrimental effects now. I mean, I've seen one of my loved ones came home one day with one of those pins, like after the whole scandal came out about him being robbed and he still put money in their pockets. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, that's how deep this programming is. Damn. It's like you getting, buying an R. Kelly CD after, his fourth or third or whatever it is year in prison. What? But he sings good though. So yeah, BLM is a scam. It's all grifting and race hustling. Simple as that. As simple as that. The Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons of the world, the new age of the DL, the Down Low Hugleys, and the Charlemagne the Godlesses, and the Joyless Reeds of the world. These individuals are perpetuating the very same thing that's keeping the people that they purport to want to help down. Like they say, oh, we're for the black community, but their messaging is actually what keeps black folk down.
I used to be afraid of the dark, place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3-6-5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up.